It's a fantastic hat. It really is.
Yeah.
It's all purpose. I
Mhm.
feel just as comfortable wearing it on traveling as I do in a walk around the neighborhood.
No. In Cleveland.
Yeah.
Hello and welcome to the Worldwide Honeymoon Travel Podcast, the podcast that talks about all things couples travel, including destinations, tips, advice, and more. I'm Kat.
I'm Chris.
And this is episode number 214.
So this is the second of two episodes that we're recording back to back here.
Yes.
I am really, really excited for this.
Yeah. So excited that Christopher is currently wearing his Stetson. And I don't know if you guys were following around or following us during probably August, September, October timeframe when we were recording episodes about our time in Uganda and Kenya. But the Stetson was a huge topic of conversation at multiple points. People have actually messaged when they would see you wearing the Stetson on Instagram stories. It became quite a thing. And so much so that Christopher at one point even picked me up from the airport wearing his Stetson.
It's a vibe.
And he's currently wearing the Stetson right now. That's where I'm going with this.
I love that phrase. I had not heard that phrase much.
Mm-hmm.
And there's like some younger like colleagues and like friends that we will hang out with, and the phrase "it's a vibe." I was lost for words at first about how to kind of describe my my different whether it's like environments or what have you, and now I'm just like, it's a vibe. And I think it accurately describes everything, including the Stetson.
Yeah, I mean, it's a funny sight to see because Christopher is currently wearing running attire because he plans to go for a run after this. And so he's wearing running shorts and like his Little Rock Marathon shirt and then a Stetson. So if you can imagine, it is quite a sight to see.
Yeah, well,
we can't all be country.
I know. Only some of us can. All righty.
No, actually, just a fun little fact, and I learned this on
no.
TikTok, so just like take that with a grain of salt.
Is this the Stetson
The
fact?
Stetson fact. Chris and I went for a run yesterday, and I was like, did you know? So how Stetson came to be was John B. Stetson. I guess he lived on the East Coast. I'm not really sure where he lived, but way back yonder, caught tuberculosis. And tuberculosis. Sorry, I didn't pronounce it right. Christopher was giving me a look. He was already laughing about it. But he caught TB, and the doctors were like, well, there's really not much we can do for you, because antibiotics didn't exist yet. And so they were like, well, maybe go out west. There's fresh air, maybe that'll help. So he goes out west, and he actually survives TB, gets better. It's very rare. I think only 20% of people that got sick with it survived it. So he does well, but then he realizes also, I should note that on the East Coast, he was a hat maker. Okay. That's important to know. So he goes out west. He notices that the hats just kind of suck out there for the people that are out there working. They needed something waterproof with a wide brim for the sun. All of that stuff. Their current hats are terrible. So then
wrecked past hat makers.
Then John B. Stetson decided to create the Stetson cowboy hat, and that is how that came to be.
It's a fantastic hat. It really is.
Yeah.
It's all purpose. I
Mm-hmm.
feel just as comfortable wearing it on traveling as I do in a walk around the neighborhood.
No. In Cleveland?
Yeah.
We're not even out west. We're the Midwest.
We live on the west side of Cleveland. So,
okay.
yeah, bit of a frontiersman if I...
yeah, bit of a Stetson himself.
I've heard a few people starting to say that, so I appreciate you recognizing it.
Oh my gosh. I'm shocked you didn't have this when we went to Montana. You would have been like...
That was a big, regrets in my life.
Mm-hmm.
That's near the top.
That is?
That is near the top.
Okay.
I can't think of many greater regrets I have in my life that I did not have this when we were there.
Yeah, I'm glad you didn't have it for our wedding.
That would have also been awesome.
No.
Would you have let me wear this?
Remember when we went to my cousin's wedding earlier this year, and we're like from the country. It was a barn wedding, and I think was the groom wearing a bolo tie? Dad wore a bolo tie.
Yeah, hold on.
And Christopher was so mad because I didn't let him bring his Stetson, and then Dad was like, "Oh my gosh, that would have been perfect."
Thank you. I looked like a ninny because you were like, oh, first off, you have to wear a jacket. Second off, you have to wear a tie. Third off, you need to wear dress shoes. And I'm like, this is a barn wedding.
I mean, a nice barn.
It was
like
a nice.
It's made for weddings.
Yes.
Yeah.
But spoiler alert, fast forward, did I need any of those three things? No. Did I lose out on the chance of not only buying my first bolo tie, but also getting to wear my Stetson? Yes.
I know the second my dad pulled out a bolo tie to wear, I was like, Chris is going to be so upset. And there were people wearing cowboy hats.
Yes.
At the wedding.
You know what? Your uncles and I bonded heavily over this fact because I said, there were like multiple times where I was like, I like your belt buckle, or like, love that shirt. I was like, guess what I wanted to wear and was not allowed to wear? And they were like, you've just got to put your foot down with her. And I was like, you know what? I do.
No. Well, how about next time we go down to Kentucky, you can wear your Stetson?
Yeah.
Oh,
I thought that was a
anyway.
given. I don't need your permission to look this fly.
Okay. Well, why don't you explain what we're going to be talking about and why you're wearing a Stetson for this episode?
All right. So, at the end of every episode, Kat will always say, hey, like if you have questions, if you have comments, if you have suggestions, feel free to message us on whether it's Twitter or Instagram or what have you. And we got a suggestion that is pretty sweet. I had never thought of this.
Yeah. So thank you.
Yes.
Do you want to read the message?
Yes. So this message is from Carrie.
Yes. Shout out to Carrie.
Yes.
Thank you.
And it says, hi, Kat and Chris. I absolutely love the podcast and can't wait for your new episodes each week. Sometimes you ask for recommendations for different episodes, and I thought that a cool one would be to list one activity to do in each state. I know a lot of times you recommend cities, Catherine, but I generally tend to stick to state and national parks. Bravo, Carrie. So I was wondering if you could literally only do one thing. Would it be something in a city or something more off the beaten path? I would love to hear your opinions. So, that is exactly what we are going to do. This is going to be a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5-part series.
Yes. And we're doing it based off of the regions of the United States.
Yes. These are not our regions.
It's from National Geographic.
Okay.
Based upon National Geographic, there are 5 regions in the United States: the Northeast, the Southwest, the West, the Southeast, and the Midwest.
Yes. So today we are going to do the Southwest, which explains the hat. And the 4 states that are in the Southwest are Arizona, New Mexico, Texas, and Oklahoma.
This is according to National Geographic.
Correct.
Yes.
Don't come at us if you feel as though you're in the Southwest and you're not on this episode.
Yeah, because parts of Southern California can be considered the Southwest.
Yeah.
Nevada.
Colorado.
Utah.
Yeah.
Southern Utah.
So keep your ats at Nat Geo.
Blame National Geographic. No, I'm just kidding. That is considered part of the West according to them. We're just doing it based on National Geographic.
Fair enough. All right.
Why? Because that was the first thing that popped up when I Googled the different regions of the United States.
Yes. So before we start, was there a way that you approached this? Like, were you just thinking, okay, like, what is the first thing that comes to my mind when I think of a state? Or were you like, okay, there's obviously, like, we're going to have multiple episodes on this. Like, how am I going to approach this consistently?
Yeah. I mean, some states, something does pop into my head. Like New Mexico, Texas, I had something that popped in my head right away. Some states like Oklahoma, I was like, I need to like do a little research on this. And I think this is an exciting concept to do because, one, we're both going to list out the top thing to do. We don't tell each other. This is Christopher's rules. We're not telling each other what it is until we record the podcast, so it may overlap. We don't know. So it could be the top 1 to 2 things to do in each state. Second, there are 50 great states in the United States, and I think that a lot of them get overlooked. A lot of them, including where we live in Ohio, are considered these quote unquote flyover states where people don't think that they're worth visiting or don't know what to do in those states.
Yeah, get wrecked, coastal states.
No, will you stop it?
These are great states.
No, but there are a lot of states that yeah, I think that people don't necessarily know what to do. They don't really think to go visit them because of that. And I think there are lots of great things to do in every state. So we can certainly find, and in some states that's probably easier. I think if you're going to be like, oh, Hawaii, well, like there's tons to see there, or Florida, or like California,
yeah.
New York, lots of great things. That's going to be harder to choose from there. But I'm excited that we have a place like Oklahoma where like, yeah, you do have to do a little research, and there are some really cool things to do in those states. And yeah, I think that's really cool that we're giving shout outs to every single state, fun things to do.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I approached this in a pretty similar manner. There were things that immediately jumped out in my mind for some of these. For others, I was like, okay, this is the thing that jumped out in my mind, but like, is that what I really, like, is that the thing I want? Or is that just the thing that like is at the top of like lists constantly, right? So I was kind of, and this may change because this is only the first episode with the first 4 states, but I was kind of approaching this in a manner of like, if I am going to make this tour of all of the states, how am I going to get like my flavor of Americana so that each one is kind of like a puzzle piece to the country as a whole? And then if I experience these 50 things, I'm like, man, did I get a flavor of America there?
And I think it's very interesting because there are states the size of other countries. Like we have 50 states, but it's almost, I think a lot of Americans know this, that each state is so different from each other. So
right.
That's why it's not like, oh, you go to the US and you experience New York and you've experienced the United States. No, not at all. There's so many different things in every single state to visit, whether it is cities, whether it's national parks, whether it's state parks, the largest ball of twine. I don't really know. But like, there's always something really cool and unique in each state to go check out.
Agreed.
Yeah.
All right. So like we said, today we're going to do the Southwest. Arizona, New Mexico, Texas, and Oklahoma. What is your top thing to do in Arizona?
I mean, I think this one's pretty obvious for most people.
Wow.
No, for most people, if you're thinking of Arizona, the Grand Canyon.
I have the Grand Canyon National Park on mine as well.
Yes, so Grand Canyon National Park, I mean, I've flown over it. I've never actually been. You've been when you were like a toddler. So
I have such really fond memories of it too. Not even a toddler. I think like months old.
So you don't remember it. I've flown over it, and it's beautiful. I would love to actually see it in person. Now, the South Rim is the most famous part. That's a part where a lot of people go and take a lot of photos and see.
Open all year.
Open all year. But if you want to get a little off the beaten path, there's the North Rim that only 10% of visitors to the Grand Canyon go there, especially to Roosevelt Point. And they're beautiful, I mean, just as beautiful views from the North Rim. Bear in mind, it is only open May 15th through October 15th.
Yeah, which probably kind of explains the reason that not a lot of people will go there.
Yeah, because you can't go year round. And also, even if you go to the South Rim, there's Shoshone Point is a hidden gem of the South Rim. And it's about a mile hike from its parking lot. And that has some beautiful views from there as well. So that way you're not constantly at the big crowded spots where you have to wait to take photos. There's plenty of places to kind of get off the beaten path in the Grand Canyon. It is quite large.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anything else from the Grand Canyon?
Well, I mean, just like looking on the national parks websites, and I love the national park websites. Mm-hmm. I think that they are some of the most informative and user-friendly websites out there. But some of the activities within Grand Canyon National Park, there's walking and hiking, there's biking, there's just driving, right? Like if you would rather just drive, there's various pull-off points and that sort of thing. There's rafting in the Colorado River. Mm-hmm. There is the opportunity for, I believe, both horse and mule riding. Mm-hmm. Just a ton of different activities.
Yeah, you can get views of the canyon from above. Then you can go down into the canyon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there something when you think of the Grand Canyon that you would want to do?
I kind of really want to see the North Rim
Okay.
of the Grand Canyon. And then also, I have had a friend, she went to the Grand Canyon in the wintertime around the South Rim. Less people in the wintertime, which is great, but also sometimes it snows there, and that's really beautiful to see.
Yeah.
So that's actually a really cool thing to do there. I think
Awesome.
just to see it would be cool. But I also put on the side of it, this is not particularly in the Grand Canyon, but it's close by in the Havasupai Tribes Reservation. That is Havasu Falls. And that is the beautiful, famous, there's a blue waterfall. It's like aqua blue waterfall in this desert oasis area. And you can actually spend several days there hiking to different waterfalls, but that's the most famous one. You need a permit for it. There's a whole system to get a permit and all of that stuff. And you probably want to spend a few days there. But yeah, to go see Havasu Falls would be very beautiful in Arizona.
Nice.
Yeah.
My thing that I would love to do in the Grand Canyon is rafting in the Colorado River.
I had a feeling that would be it for you.
I just think that would be really cool. There is also a rather famous race that is called the Rim to Rim.
Oh, no.
Oh, yeah.
Is it an ultra marathon?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Is it in the winter at least?
I don't know when it is.
Or like not in the middle of like the dry summer?
I don't need water.
Okay. I'll just say when I went to Death Valley National Park last year, they say you lose about a gallon of water just sitting in the shade in the middle of summer for like an hour or maybe or I can't remember how long of time, but you lose a lot of water from your body because it's the driest place in North America.
What percentage water are we? Is it like 80%
I think
or
it's like
70%?
75%.
Yeah,
We're a lot of water.
I don't need more water. That's so much percent.
Oh my gosh.
Goodness. Yeah. I had a feeling we were going to agree on Arizona. I would be surprised if we agree on any of the others.
Okay. Sorry. All right. Next up is New Mexico. What is your top thing to do in New Mexico?
Mine is White Sands National Park.
That is mine.
That's okay.
That's mine.
That's okay. Well, my goodness.
Come up with something else.
Miss Goozy. Would you like to talk about it then? That threw something at me right there.
No,
I had to duck.
No, I didn't. Just chucked a Stetson at you. Yeah, so one of the newer national parks, White Sands National Park, of course is up there. And first of all, New Mexico is a place I really want to go see. Between White Sands National Park and just all these other natural beauty and wonders there. It would be great. But the White Sands National Park has dunes made of gypsum sand. So it's very white, obviously, White Sands National Park. It's very beautiful.
Hold on, what color is the sand?
I think it's white.
Okay.
It's 275 square miles of desert. And there's a lot of fun things you can do here. There's sledding on the dunes.
Doesn't that sound neat?
Doesn't that sound fun?
Yeah.
I mean, I went to Death Valley National Park, and you go to the Mesquite Sand Dunes, and I was like a child playing in a sandbox. I was so excited.
Did you do sand surfing there?
No, I just frolicked around throwing sand, and it was so much fun.
What a toddler.
You can drive. There's a Dunes Drive. It's about an 8-mile or 13-kilometer road that leads to the dune field, and it's very beautiful and picturesque. There's hiking. There's a lot of easier hiking trails, but there's also a 5-mile Akali flat trail, and that leads to the biggest of the sand dunes.
Yes.
So yeah, there's a lot to do there. Great night skies. I mean, in the area, New Mexico, just not a lot of light pollution, especially if you're not around the cities. So great for watching the night as well. Wear sunglasses and sunscreen.
I am going to build on that a little bit.
Not at night, obviously. After I talk about the night, I'm like, wear sunscreen and sunglasses. I was like, during the day.
Yeah, there's a pro tip. If your schedule permits, try to go around a full moon because they will do full moon hikes.
What?
Isn't that awesome?
That's cool.
Yeah.
So we're going, right?
Right. There's also backcountry camping. I have never camped. Like, in a tent.
Well, that one time in Putin Bay.
Yeah, but I didn't even have to, put up the tent.
Yeah.
It was already put up when we got there.
Christopher thinks he's,
I am a
this
bit of
outdoorsman, and he's never camped.
I would fashion a guess that a lot of people like view me as a frontiersman.
Okay.
You don't think that?
You know, it's not the first word that comes to mind.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, now I'm kind of like reassessing my entire life here, but I thought I had that one locked down. But yeah, I think that would be pretty cool. There is one particular challenge to visiting White Sands National Park, and that is the fact that it is located next to a missile testing area. So there are alerts that will go out where like you can't visit the park at certain times because they are testing missiles around the area. So just something to be aware of before you go. And also something to kind of, I think that they said on the website that they give like a 24-hour notice. Mm-hmm. So just to kind of be aware of the fact that like there's launches. Yeah.
Yes.
All right.
And it's no surprise that the first two were national parks. I've said this so many times that some of the best places to visit in the United States are the national parks.
Absolutely.
They're so beautiful. Yeah.
Number 3 is Texas. Are you going 3 for 3 on national parks?
No.
I am.
Okay, this is not a national park. Do you want me to do mine first? Do you want to go first?
I will continue the national park theme first, if you don't mind.
Go for it.
I'm going for the triple down here.
Okay.
That is Big Bend National Park.
Ah, yes.
So Big Bend National Park is in southwest Texas. The Rio Grande River runs through it. Mm-hmm. It got me when they said that it was one of the least visited national parks, and it is incredibly remote.
I'm assuming in the continental
yes.
U.S. Yeah.
Yes, and I'm like, you know what?
Not
all of the ones in Alaska.
Yeah, other than what, Denali,
right?
And Kenai Fords.
Yeah, but here, like I said, you have the Rio Grande. You have hiking. You have different peaks. You have different canyons. There's water sport opportunity. There's like specific river trips that you can go throughout Big Bend National Park. Again, like we were kind of talking about with White Sands National Park, one of the big draws is the fact that it's remote, and the fact that you can like get an otherworldly view of the night sky. This national park's website in particular, I really like because it's one that lists like if you have 1 day, if you have 3 days, if you have multiple days, and it has kind of the projected itineraries. I think a lot of them do that. I'm not sure if all of them do.
They do. Like if you look up Indiana, like the sand dunes.
Yeah.
It'll say it's more of a place that you go for a day. So it's like if you have a full day, if you have a couple of hours.
Right.
Yeah, they sometimes have that.
I know. And I don't know if all of the national park websites have that or not, but I always find those so helpful. The
national park website.
Well, okay. Unreal. We're on state 3 of 50 here, and also respect the hat. So yeah, it's a place that you can visit if you just have a day, if you have 3, if you have multiple days. But again, just kind of an aspect of an incredibly large state. That you can kind of get away from it all and really experience nature for a bit. Since you decided to break the national park train, is yours Austin?
No.
Oh, okay.
Texas Hill Country.
Texas Hill Country.
So
okay.
This area is known for having over 100 wineries. So that's
there it
where
is.
you can go wine tasting in Texas.
Should have known what you were picking.
But there are a lot of swimming holes, springs, like Jacob's Well, which is a spring. There's caverns, so natural bridge caverns. Then you have Fredericksburg, and it's kind of a German town, so they have a big German ancestry, so they celebrate both Oktoberfest and have Christmas festivities and things. There's also the chance to go tubing in the Guadalupe River State Park. It's also known for having beautiful wildflowers in the spring, especially bluebonnets. So this area of Texas, lovely place to visit, probably in the spring as well before it gets too hot in the summer. So you can go wine tasting. There are great wells and springs and swimming holes, wildflowers. Yeah.
Awesome.
And tubing opportunities. So.
I'm surprised you didn't choose Austin.
I really like Austin. I've been to Austin and Dallas. Austin's really fun. The food's great, but I think the hill country is the top thing to do.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
And then the last state here in National Geographic's Southwest rendering of the U.S.
Oklahoma.
is Oklahoma. What is your top thing? Well, actually, let me say before I ask you the question, Oklahoma for me was a state that I'm sure our home state of Ohio is very much like to other people, where I thought of Oklahoma and I'm like,
do they have a national park?
I don't believe they
I
do.
don't think they do. Yeah.
But I know a lot of people will say like, oh, okay, like you're in Ohio. What's in Ohio? Like there's not something that immediately comes to mind. For me, what immediately came to mind for Oklahoma was Oklahoma University and Oklahoma State University, just from like college football, college basketball.
Is that what you're listing?
No, it's not. But like
relive your college days.
But no, I mean, they have incredibly successful programs. There's also other professional sports teams there.
Mm-hmm.
But I was like, man, if someone just like, if I was in a conversation about like, what would you recommend doing in Oklahoma? I would come up empty. Just like, to be quite honest, I would with a lot of states in the U.S.
And that doesn't mean that there's nothing to do there. It just means there's nothing that's been really publicized to do there. Or like, it's not as popular like going to places like, again, California, New York, Florida.
Exactly.
That sort of thing.
And like I said, I think a lot of people too would say the exact same thing about Ohio.
Sure. Yeah.
So
versus we could talk about all sorts of things to do in Ohio.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I will say that out of the 4 states here, this was one of the more fun ones for me to prepare for, because I went down like a big rabbit hole of what to do in Oklahoma. And I'm like, man, this, like, you could very easily spend quite a bit of time there. There's a lot to do, but I did come up with one thing, but
okay.
Do you want to go first or do you want me to go first?
I'll go first.
Okay.
Mine was the Wichita Mountains Wildlife Refuge. Is that what you picked?
No.
Good. Okay. I did it because you have the backdrop of the Wichita Mountains. There's lots of things that you can do here between, if you're a hunter, there's fishing, to backpacking, biking, birding. You love birds.
I do love birds.
Boating, camping, rock climbing, hiking. But the biggest thing is wildlife watching. There are bison here, elk, deer, turkey, prairie dogs. So if you guys want to go see the prairie dogs out west, that is the place that you can go and see them. But also for snorkeling and scuba divers, Lake Elmer Thomas Dam, that area, you can go snorkeling and scuba diving. So that is also a really cool thing that you can do.
That is pretty sweet. So
yeah.
that was on my, not like my list, but like that was one of the ones I was considering.
Yeah, beautiful nature. Oh, and also wildflowers here as well. Again, there's a lot to see here. It's a very beautiful part of Oklahoma.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I chose not to list that. Okay. And it sounds amazing and I would 100% do it, but the reason that I chose not to do it is because I'm like, like, at least for me, I was like, bison, that would be cool. Prairie dogs, that would be cool.
They had me at bison and prairie dogs.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm like, man, like I'm trying to like think ahead in the series a little bit and say, am I going to pick something else because of that? So I ended up not picking that, even though it's a very worthy pick. Mm-hmm. So I do want to commend you on.
Okay. Get over here.
The one that I picked, and I'm curious to see if this was on your radar. It's in Oklahoma City, and it's the First American Museum.
I think I saw that somewhat in my research. Yeah,
and
look at you picking a city.
Well, and a museum.
Mm-hmm.
I'm honestly surprised that you did not pick a museum because you
love
museums. I thought that the First American Museum, from what I've read, I've never been, but it offers kind of like a different perspective here. So it contains historical accounts of 39 First American nations that are currently in Oklahoma. Mm-hmm. Most were not indigenous to Oklahoma. Most of them were relocated to Oklahoma as the settlers expanded, and obviously there's that whole historical aspect of our country. I think that the reason that I chose this was that it allows you to have that cultural and historical appreciation of those nations, and the fact that it's a history of 39 different nations. That is pretty sweet.
Yeah.
So when I was thinking about all of this and like trying to kind of like I said at the top of the episode, like I'm trying to form this puzzle kind of thing. So like I don't want to just do like all nature throughout the states. I don't want to just do like, oh, here's the capital or here's the biggest city. I kind of want to pick things that are like somewhat unique in each area. And that's why I picked the First Americans Museum, because I think that lends a very important piece of history to America as a whole. So yeah, there are top 4 things to do in the 4 southwestern states.
Do you have one that you want to do first?
I think the Grand Canyon for me.
Yeah.
Just because, I mean, I know I said this in the last episode, but like whenever there is a trip where I have to wear my hiking boots on the plane,
that's the one.
That's a trip.
That's fair.
So I think that Grand Canyon National Park would be pretty epic. What about you?
I was going to say Grand Canyon as well. So
Yeah. And this is a really cool series that I'm excited to do. And thank you again, Carrie, for the recommendation here, because I think a lot of times, at least with us, when we are thinking of trips to take, we kind of look outside of the border, right? And we're like, okay, where do we want to go? When some of our most like cherished memories, like whether it's Vermont or whether it's Glacier National Park in Montana or other trips that we've taken within the U.S. have been just as spectacular, if not more memorable, than when we've stepped foot outside of our country's borders.
Yeah.
So I think that this is going to be a really, really fun series to do and kind of really focus our concentration within the borders and make a pretty epic U.S. bucket list here.
Yes. Yeah. Well, let us know your guys' thoughts. What do you think would be the top places to go to in each of those states? And also, if you have any suggestions, we're always open to those. You can reach out to us on Twitter at WWHoneymoon, Instagram at Worldwide Honeymoon, or email kat@worldwidehoneymoon.com. But thank you guys so much for tuning in.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks for tuning in, and don't forget to rate and review our podcast. It takes less than a few minutes and really helps other people find us. Also, if you're enjoying this awesome free information on both the blog and podcast, when you're booking your next trip, head over to worldwidehoneymoon.com/resources and use the links provided. We earn a small commission at no cost to you when you book through these links, and these are all brands and companies we know, love, and use, like Skyscanner for finding the best flight prices, World Nomads for the best travel insurance, TripAdvisor for hotel bookings and reviews, and even Amazon for all of your travel purchases.
Thank you for tuning in. We really appreciate it. Wherever you are, wherever you go, remember to make every day a worldwide honeymoon.